right, folks, like the title says, we're going to talk the recent Spurs road trip, which some would describe maybe as not great, Bob. Or, if your team tanked, then maybe you thought it was the greatest road trip this earth has ever seen. But in the meantime, I'm going to bring up Evan. We're also going to talk about some trade rumors. Feel free. We are here to answer any and all questions, so please feel free to ask them. We're happy to answer them. The more people who ask questions, the better. The longer we're on here, and of course, the more questions you guys get answered. So, Evan, let's get going here. What were your initial thoughts after this recent road trip ended?
Oh man, a lot to think of when you first consider that question. You know, people were disappointed in a lot of rotations. People were kind of just forgetting that besides Trey Jones, there's no backup point guard. And when we have 7 turnovers against one of the best teams in the league, and Jeremy Sohan is sole reason of that, it's going to be a tough pill to swallow for some who don't really understand the game of basketball. I'd love to see these rotations. That's kind of why I wanted just to bring both sides of it. When you think of like the Toronto Raptors, Orlando Magic type of rotations where everyone's like 6'5", 6'6", and above, the Spurs did a pretty good job of at least attempting to see what that would look like for the near future. Guys like KBD is replaceable. Guys that like Romeo Langford are replaceable. You plug in either like a 19-year-old, I don't want to say a disgruntled star, but somebody who could fulfill that role to be the guy that you would want for the future. We have the money, we have the assets. It's all about making sure that we put the right people in the right places to succeed. And I saw a lot of that from this road trip. 1-9, not the best record. I obviously am wanted to get in on the Wembanyama sweepstakes. So, this was obviously, in my honest opinion, it was a fantastic job from Coach Pop of putting the best people available in the best position to succeed. We saw a lot of great Charles Bassey moments, and we saw a lot of lowlights from him. That Collins is out, Blake Wesley is out. So we just got to make sure that, our guys are ready to step up when their name is called.
So, Dick Heron in here, listener, tweeted at us. Great question. He basically said, trade for what, really? Just keep the team they have and just play it out. And, that's a perfectly logical and acceptable thing to do. I think if people are going to talk about trading, and I know we're still on the road trip, but I figured I'd address the tweet while we have it. Ooh, W's and R's killing me today. But, really, ideally, if the Spurs are going to make a trade, they're making a trade for more picks and potentially taking on a really bad contract in order to get those picks. And then they get rid of that contract still at the end of this year. So they only take on someone who's got a year left on that contract. And then they still have the space to go out and hunt for someone in free agency. Now, you want to talk about free agency, who can they get in free agency? That's another topic for a different day because, everybody's going to argue, well, San Antonio's never going to go out and get a big free agent. Fine, you can think that all you want, but at some point, the San Antonio Spurs are going to have to get somebody. So, just wanted to address that tweet. Evan, let me get you back on track with the road trip. Like you said, 1-9. The defense was really bad at times. The Spurs had some opportunities to experiment with bigger lineups. I am not sure it worked the way they hoped it would. Conceivably, the Spurs could roll out super weird lineup of Keldon Johnson, Devin Vassell, maybe throw Romeo Langford at point guard, and you have Jeremy Sohan and Jakob Poeltl, and you're relatively big. You're not Orlando Magic stupid big with all of the long boys. You got like Bol, Paolo Banchero, Franz Wagner is your 3 at 6'9". You're not quite that big, but you're not exactly small either. Is there Is there some sort of mix of guys that you want to see them experiment with down the road here? I mean, it's become very clear that those initial first 2 weeks of getting some unexpected wins may be fewer and far between now.
Oh yeah, for sure. The first person that comes to mind would obviously, probably be Jeremy Sohan. Want to throw him out in the fire? He's more than ready on the defensive side. He has to learn the NBA speed, adjust to making rotations, adjust to making the right read without. How do you say this? A lot of times, Jeremy Sohan knows a certain play is going to be. He can read a play on defense, but he jumps the gun too quick, and often that can turn into a foul. That can turn into opposing player having a first step on him, and just that kind of stuff. If you can imagine, if you want to remember him guarding Steph Curry, guarding Damian Lillard the same week, and then at the same time being able to ask, hey, the opposing wing of this team, this first rotation, the second rotation, hey, rookies, second-year player, third-year player, go out and see what you can do. If we can see that from, even guys like Romeo Langford, people forget that he had a pretty fantastic, for the most part, preseason. When he was available, he did really good. He battled for his position. He's someone that's going to be traded. Is he getting the amount of minutes to raise his trade value? That's one thing that, is definitely up for discussion. I don't think so. So right now, it's the second and third year players, the forgotten, quote unquote, I don't want to say KBDs of the world, but you have to be put in a position to be moved on. Now, last year, we were talking about Thaddeus Young. I know we're kind of leewaying into trade talk, but Thaddeus Young was only put in like maybe 4 or 5 minutes at a time per game, and he was clearly frustrated. I'm not seeing a lot of that from this bench. I'm not seeing. Obviously, we've seen these guys be more unified. Everyone's laughing at Jamie Sohan and Keldon Johnson being best friends now. But in terms of like the bench unit, Isaiah Roby's been a good glue piece. Gorgie Jang and Charles Bassey are now embracing each other, the African brothers. You know what I'm saying? So ideally, like if you want to think of that in terms of what the future of the off court could look like for the team, on court is obviously the best product and what everyone wants to talk about. But I'm looking at a lot of stuff from off court, man. Like, when Zach Collins comes back, is he going to be immediately thrown into the fire with Charles Bassey? Is he going to be that solidified backup center? Are we going to see any more Charles Bassey moments? Is he going to go straight to Austin? So they could use him for sure. So yeah, I know that's kind of like a vague rant right there, but if you had anything to say about that, if there's any notes that you had, feel free.
Yeah, do you think it's worth the experiment to try and throw Charles Bassey and Jakob Poeltl out there together, or is that just
No.
Is that no? Okay, that's too many slow guys at once.
No, that's the perfect way to lose a game. That's the perfect way. Like, I guess the only lineup I could see that being a thing is like Cat and and the Cat and the Rudy Gobert front court when we play them in April in Austin. That's gonna be something to watch. Those lineups gonna get crazy. Literally, like we're gonna start Blake Wesley. We're gonna start Romeo Langford. There's gonna be injuries, and I don't know. That's when the tank is gonna start. We'll talk about that later, but yeah, I just don't think that's gonna make a lot of sense. Jakob Poeltl is his trade value is through the roof. We don't need another big burly 6'9", 6'10" guy clogging up that paint. Yeah, I'm good on that.
Fair enough. It was worth a shot. All right. We've talked enough about the road trip. I think everybody's good with 1-9. We're gonna move on. We don't. It didn't happen. We don't need to hear about it. Trade rumors. There was an article that came out. I don't know if it was today or yesterday. The report said that the Spurs basically had a chance to land Russell Westbrook for who was it? I think they were going to get a first rounder. It was going to be a Lakers first round pick, but it was protected. I don't know how heavily protected. I think it was lottery protected. And the Spurs would have had to give up, I think it was Jakob Poeltl and Doug McDermott or Josh Richardson. I honestly cannot remember, but I remember Russell Westbrook and a lottery protected first round pick being the headliner there. What are your initial thoughts on that? Is that should they have taken the trade if indeed it was offered? Were they right in not taking it? I mean, hindsight being 2020, I'm kind of siding with it's better that they didn't, because if it was lottery protected, it probably wouldn't have conveyed the share because the Lakers look bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, that's definitely going to be a Pelicans pick. That's how that's how that pick swap works. You know, let's think about this like from not the preseason mindset. We know what Trey Jones is. He's shooting 40% from three. It's a surprise. He's being efficient.
Real quick. Sorry to cut you off. I have been informed that it was Doug McDermott and Josh Richardson for that protected first.
Gotcha. Okay, because I was about to have a fit about throwing Jakob in that trade.
Yep.
Can't have Jakob for that nonsense. Not trying to be disrespectful, but like if you want to imagine possibly, I don't want to say ruining this is like I'm not saying this. Trey Jones is a great backup point guard in this league. He's not a starter, but you're potentially ruining somebody's, I don't want to say just his bag, but really like his you're setting back maybe a couple opportunities for his career. So if you look at Trey Jones, he's like everyone's agreeing he's the table set of this team, the glue piece of this team. If you don't have Trey Jones in your lineup, more likely to lose. It's just the same as Jakob. We can win without Keldon. We can win without Devin. We just got to have Dave Rich and Doug to knock down some threes, right? But Trey Jones is the glue. Like he gets everyone going. He's not selfish, and he's the piece that we need. So Russell Westbrook comes to town. Hey Russ, hey, what if he gets bought out, which is going to cost a lot of money on the spread? Like we don't see the payroll. We just like to see the basketball. We like to talk about it. Signing that check just to have this man be sent out. That's for a protected pick. No. Can't see that being a thing. And at the end of the day, if he were to stay in town, that's another option, right? Give him 20, 24 minutes. Split that with Trey Jones. Is that necessarily great for Trey Jones? Trey Jones can necessarily get the same type of bag as his brother, Derek White, the Keldon Johnson extension kicking in next year, 17, 18 million. He could be worth that. But you want Russ for 5 months or just for 2 hours? No, I'm good. I can't risk that. Trey Jones could be I don't want to say the best potential backup in the league, but one of the more important backups for our team right now. We're talking about the Spurs. Now, Blake Wesley isn't ready to be a backup point guard. Any other backup point guards on the market are going to be on the level of like a Colin Sexton, somebody that's going to want the ball more. Someone's going to be demanding. I don't see Lonzo Ball coming in town. I don't see a lot of people like that wanting to play for the Spurs. So we can't mess that up. And, you know, if you bring in Russ, that's just a lot of toxicity. Like, yes, he's a great kid, great guy, great overall just mentor for the community and for the team possibly. But I just don't want that. I just can't see that happening.
And this is not to take anything away from Russell Westbrook. That is never the intention with this stuff. But at the same time, that is a guy. He probably sets you back a year in your development of other players. Like he sets you back in your development of Trey Jones because now Trey Jones isn't getting as many minutes. Sure, you can argue that Trey Jones should be a backup, but because he is the Spurs starter this year, he is getting a lot more experience at a higher level. He's playing against better competition than he would be playing against other people's second string guys. And I think that's valuable in the future for whoever you end up signing and or drafting that becomes your legitimate first point guard. I think with Russell Westbrook, he's going to demand to play probably 36 minutes, right? If not more. 3 full quarters, and you're not getting a chance to run Trey Jones out there as much. Or if you run them together, Trey Jones is essentially playing an off-ball 2, which is not great for him. He has to have the ball in his hands. He's a much better distributor than he is a shooter. Not to say that the shooting is bad. He has gotten much better. But I don't know. For me, it's a bad move. And really what the cherry on top for me was, if that pick is lottery protected, with the way the Lakers are constructed now, I just don't think that pick conveys, and it's not worth it. If you're the Spurs, you are getting picks that you need to have very high certainty that they are going to be lottery picks, or if they have to be so far down the road that it doesn't matter if they're lottery picks. But you're talking 4 or 5 years potentially. That's how far down the road they have to be if they're not going to be lottery picks.
Some 20, 29, 20, 30 first round picks. Look at that. That's crazy. Yep. No, that's the reality. Then we were talking about this earlier. Assuring that the Spurs make the right move at the right time to get the person or the asset that they want. Actually, not exactly the player, but to get the overall package that is like the dream package without getting finesse, without having your leverage slip through because somebody else got traded or someone got injured, and then everyone else is demanding or everyone else wants hey, my like if we were trying to trade for like Omar Yurtseven, right, from the Miami Heat, a good backup center, move on from Jakob and give Charles Bassey or Yurk starting minutes, knowing that we're probably going to suck and we're going to guarantee to probably lose most of those games, right? We need a center, and without a solid one, we're terrible, right? If we're so slow that Bam Adebayo gets hurt and Yurks now has to start, some team may want to trade for Yurk, but they're going to want, a lot of the options of maybe, hey, like we're kind of desperate now, but we kind of want to make sure like, hey, this guy we're sending him to a place he wants to play. Because, we've heard of that history, all the little rumors behind the scenes, Spurs players, disgruntled Spurs players thinking they get a lot of minutes. Then boom, they're in Bora Bora, DeMar Carroll, so all of a sudden you are in a really, really like the 2-3 week period that we're about to go through right now, before the trade rumors really get started, before Valentine's Day, before All-Star break. Man, if the Spurs don't make any moves and teams are going to start really like making these calls, we may be on the short end of the stick. Not once again. Last year, Brian made a lot of moves. We called, and none of those Bryn Forbes, Denver, got reported. Derek White was not reported to be linked at Boston. Look for a lot of these leaks, quote unquote leaks. Not from Legion Hoops, not from unverified sources. If you know, you know. Look for some of these verified, actually verified media members, people that are legit to be saying, oh, I got word that Josh Richardson a couple weeks ago, he was probably, on the move right then, but they got word, and the Spurs, they don't like the media. They don't like, rumors to get out. So just be on the lookout for that, and just know that not every rumor is legit. That could be a teenager typing what is on his mind, literally, and he can buy a verification. We know that now. So just be on the lookout.
So a big target likely, I would say, for the Spurs is John Collins with the Hawks. I know there were talks about the Spurs potentially signing him outright when he became a free agent, re-signed with Atlanta, and now it feels like Atlanta is just not using him properly. He's the fourth highest scorer on that team, and he's fifth in usage rate, which is kind of nuts. So I could very much see him getting moved. Shams Charania recently said that there have been talks about moving him. A starter, potential starting center. Well, he wouldn't be starting in front of Jakob Poeltl, but he would be a great backup center, and he's relatively cheap, so he's easy to move. The Dallas Mavericks, Dwight Powell, a guy I really like. I happen to like him a lot. And at 11, he has an expiring contract of $11 million. So there's some potential there. There's a few guys elsewhere around the league, and I know a lot of talk has been heating up about James Wiseman, since he's supposed to be this phenom, and he's been sent on a G League tour. So there's talks that maybe he's not fitting the Warriors' timeline. Maybe he's, maybe they need to try and find someone to replace him down the road, whatever it is. But I think those are kind of maybe some of the realistic targets the Spurs might want to look at in the coming weeks after guys become eligible to trade. You have to wait 60 days after the signing of the contract, in the off season, whatever it is, you have to wait for certain deadlines to hit. So I think, once those deadlines hit, that those guys may be it.
Do you like this? No shade, of course, Ben. You're my guy. Do you really think that James Wiseman has potential? Now,
That's what I'm not sure about. I'm very skeptical about that. That's a legitimate question.
really.
That's just what I've been seeing going around, is that like the Warriors might be ready to punt on that project, and they might try and bamboozle somewhere. Or they might try and say that they might try and dangle an extra piece out there and say, well, if you take on James Wiseman, we'll give you this other player, we'll give you this pick down the road or something to try and get them off their books.
Mm-hmm. And I was in a Warrior space the other day, and they were just going off, not just on him, but just going off on how there's no veteran leadership on that team. Really, the first unit kills kills teams in the first quarter. The starting lineup is one of the best in the league for net rating wise, right? Second unit comes in, it's Jordan Poole's inconsistent behind, hey, cross your between step back, air ball. And then 20 points the game before, who's the second option? James Wiseman is getting replaced by Kevon Looney. They have small ball lineups when they need a big man because this guy has an attitude problem. Literally, reportedly, James Wiseman was so frustrated in the front office how they were treating him, how basically like they weren't giving him the red carpet treatment how a second overall pick should. He's only played so many games since high school, and Ben, I'm not going to post it, I'm going to DM it to you. An amazing thread. An amazing thread came to my timeline about how James Wiseman has no basketball IQ. He clogs up the paint. He's looking to make the craziest shots that aren't there. No hands. No ability to make a putback dunk. No ability to catch the ball for a basic alley. Like I know, like I remember I had what was that called? Sweat grip. I had to use that. I was nervous for a JV basketball game. I had my parents come to town. I said, sweat grip. I ain't messing this up. He needs to invest into that. I don't know what's going on. Literally, when you think about it, when you think about it, he literally has almost all the opportunities for him to succeed. There's not a lot of money to be processed throughout that team. Nobody wants to trade for the Warriors to make them a championship contending team once again, because right now they're terrible. Andrew Wiggins and Steph Curry are the only consistent players on that team. Draymond Green, not that great this year. Klay Thompson only had 2 good games this year. Everyone else, inconsistent. So we'll see how that plays out. I know that was a long tangent on James Wiseman, but it's just I think that ship has sailed. John Collins is more interesting, but I'd rather just see Jeremy Sohan get all those minutes. John Collins is somebody that could be utilized in like a Phoenix trade, a Miami trade, to solidify their championship contention. But James Wiseman, I just can't see it.
Well, yeah, the Suns still have to figure out what they're doing with Jay Crowder. That's that could be a whole situation. Not to say that he's a guy the Spurs might want to look at, but he's definitely a guy who's getting traded at some point. He's not staying there all year. He's not playing. He doesn't want to be there.
Yep. And Jay Crowder has been the journeyman of the NBA, but it's because he's the most sought out piece for a championship contending team. Everybody needs a corner 3-and-D threat that's not afraid to play 30 minutes or that's willing to pay 13. Now, we don't know what's all the nonsense going on in Phoenix. You can just read the body language, know that there's a lot of nonsense going on. But at the end of the day, guys like Julius Randle, we're going to talk about attitudes and demeanor here. Do you guys see Julius Randle just bump into Obi Toppin? I know, great. We play basketball. It's just a competitive nature. But I was reading a post earlier. Like as soon as Julius Randle has like a slow start to a game, and like immediately quickly is going off, another player is going off. Man, like his attitude just shrinks. He's like, oh, I guess I'm not the star of the show, and he's over here bumping shoulders in the middle of timeouts with Obi Toppin. Like that. Players like that are killing teams, and their hand is not only being forced, but a trade cannot come to fruition because nobody wants you. Literally, nobody wants you. And then, like let's think about the offseason here: the KD saga, the Donovan Mitchell saga. That's the reason why the Spurs weren't so active with Doug and Josh Richardson. That's just my prediction over the summer. And the same thing is going on right now. DeAndre Ayton probably wants out. Jay Crowder wants out. Look out east. John Collins is now not so cool with DeJounte Murray and Trae Young. He's not their lob threat that they thought Clint Capella was, So it's a lot of just stuff that I don't have any confirmation of, making my best prediction. But this is what's stalling, a couple possible moves being made. But once that once that fire gets ignited, it's going to be just an ongoing blaze. It's going to be a lot of. You remember the last few trade what is it called?
The deadline?
Not only the deadline, but the trade rumors, and the fake ones. I'm trying to think of the word. It starts with a C. Anyways, there'll be not just like the Legion Hoops of the world, the other pages that aren't verified but just have a lot of followers. They would really have a lot of leeway into how people would think. You would have certain discourses pushed that were just not only not accurate, but it's just like who's making this a thing? Who's actually trying to spread a rumor that it was like before CJ got traded, it was like the huge Dame Lillard is the best example. That's the best example because he was saying on record, I want to stay, and then boom, it was New York, it was all this kind of stuff. So yeah, those kind of rumors, I'm not giving all the attention to. So just want to put that out there because it's gonna get nasty sooner rather than later.
Yeah, wait for the verified sources. Don't make assumptions. With the way Twitter is acting up now, make sure they are legitimate, blue check guys. Set your alarms for the very specific profiles. I mean, that's what I do. I made sure I have the right, Shams Charania and Adrian Wojnarowski and maybe Mark Stein and a couple other guys. Make sure you have the right profile. Set alarms for that. If you don't see an alarm for that, then the tweet is fake. It's I'm serious. Like with the way that Twitter has been run the last 2 or 3 weeks, like people are impersonating people and it's dangerous. Do not get caught up in that.
Hey, you already heard.
I cannot stress it enough.
You heard it from Ben. He said it. You want to start open the floor for questions?
Absolutely. We are open for questions.
Appreciate everyone for tuning in. Make sure you follow everyone from Project Spurs. Make sure you follow Ben. He's been holding down running the Project Spurs page in terms of spaces. Jazz is in here. Matt's in here. Shout out to Eric, Austin, Tavarius. Tavarius, what's going on? Got him on stage.
There he is. There's our guy.
What's going on, man? How are you?
What's up, fellas? How y'all doing?
Pretty good.
I just want to give you guys some observations that I saw from this road trip. You know what? Maybe the team did. Hey, they probably missed Langford and Zach Collins because their defense was awful. And when it comes to Doug and Josh, oh my goodness, I don't know. To me, their trade stock has declined some because they do not look great. And also, I noticed something. You see, Jakob has started to score a little bit more. I guess his agent must have told him, hey, in order to get more money, you got to score some baskets. So he's been scoring a little bit more than I thought he would, and that's a shocker to me. And my last thing I like to say, when it comes to Keldon, he needs to work on his mid-range because if he's not making the three, he's out. And that's it.
He could stand to learn a thing or two from Devin Vassell in the mid range, but as far as Doug McDermott goes, I mean, he's not scoring as much as he has the last couple seasons, but his shooting percentages are still pretty solid outside of his free throw percentage right now. But I think that'll rise up once he gets more opportunities at the line. I mean, he's still shooting over 40% from three. He's shooting 45.5% from the floor. So like he's still very clearly a shooter you have to keep an eye on. And, he's averaging a little less minutes this year at 20.5 minutes a game as opposed to he's been closer to 24 the last couple of years. So for him, he's just got to take advantage of opportunities when the Spurs give them to him. I think that's it. But as far as I think teams understand his trade value, and I think That's why the Spurs didn't budge on that reported trade. They wanted that unprotected first round pick. Lottery protected did not is they're worth more than that. Is really what um is really what it came down to. And I know we just brought up Matt and Jazz. I think it was Jazz and then Matt, if I'm not mistaken. So guys, please hit us up.
What's up, guys? I'm glad we brought up the road trip because I was fairly disappointed at.
Jazz, you going through the Matrix?
Huh?
Oh, connect for me. You good now? Go ahead. You broke off for a bit. Go ahead.
Okay, sorry. So I was basically saying that the road trip kind of brought some questions in my mind about what this team is going to look like if we lose certain pieces and why free agency is so important and why this draft that's coming up is really going to determine how the next few years look. But one question that was kind of just in my mind and that I also got sent from a Pelicans reporter who wants to know the perspective from like Spurs fans and people who report on the Spurs is what do you think we're going to use? Do you think we are going to lose Yak this year? And if we do, what happens after that? Like, what does that do to the starting five? What does that do to guys coming off the bench or who may not be coming off the bench anymore because we don't have Yak and who's going to be starting after that? And how that affects everybody? Because honestly, these last few games or the last game with the Lakers, they got freaking ran through on the defensive end, and it pissed me off because we know that they can play good defense, but Sohan just isn't mature enough for it to be consistent right now. Devin Keldon are not like they play defense on offense. Like they're not necessarily defenders, but they can handle the ball well to the point where they can defend the ball when it's in their hand or it's in their corner. But and Bassey's great again, still a young guy. Like, so what happens when we don't have Jakob Poeltl and we still have a young? Do you think Sohan is going to develop fast enough for us to even be secure in losing Yak? I mean, of course we can get somebody else in a trade, but who would even be out there to replace what we're losing with Yak, especially with him? I think Ben said it with him or Ben or was it Austin? Somebody said that now that he's scoring more, definitely. Double doubles every freaking night and high at that, not no low situation. So yeah, I just want to get opinions on that perspective because I'm really worried about our defense right
now. If there's a guy who gets traded, it's definitely Jakob Poeltl, and I'm thinking it's got to be for at least one unprotected first rounder and potentially another future first rounder way down the line, or that unprotected first and a decent second would be my guess, and then probably some filler guys who have to make up for contract or whatever. But yeah, I would be concerned. I mean, I think Jakob Poeltl is probably the most valuable player on this team right now, and I think teams see that. And depending on how injuries go, or depending on how the playoff picture starts to look before February, some teams might get desperate and realize we need a facilitating defensive big who can help us immediately. There's going to be a couple teams out there, I think, that realize that, and they're going to make some offers. So I wouldn't be surprised if he gets sent off. I would be ecstatic if he didn't, but don't put all of your hope in the Poeltl staying basket. I think you might find yourself disappointed.
I had a DM come earlier. Besides Jokic and Embiid, is there any other center that's a better playmaker, Jakob Poeltl? And it took me a while to think. You know, I really don't even think of DeAndre Ayton. I'm not even going to look at stats. I'm thinking of like my basketball just knowledge. And on top of my head, maybe Bam, maybe you can't even say Brook Lopez. You can't say Jonas Valanciunas. There really isn't anyone that stands out. Miles Turner is stagnant. He stands still. He's just a popsicle stick out there. So, that asset is so just lured after. Someone's going to want to just throw the farm. Hopefully 2 first-round picks. We're saying 1. But hey, remember that article that said 2?
Hopefully 2.
Remember the article that said 2? So
All right,
yeah.
Matt. What do you got for us, Matt? We're moving along here. I got a hard cutoff. I have to take the old man to the gym. I gotta keep gotta keep the older generation alive here. Got to keep them young. Hopefully Matt can give us a little bit of that. What do you have for us, Matt?
Hey, yeah, I just really think that the road trip went really bad. I think that we had some good games in the beginning. I think it was really cool to see Jeremy Sohan keep Steph Curry under 20 points. That was amazing. I think it was really good that Charles Bassey is like realizing that he needs to like be more aggressive. And I think that he like isn't there yet. I just think that he needs some more work, and I don't know when he's going back to the G League. I know he's only available for 50 games on the main roster, so we'll see when they send him back, or if they cut Jordan Hall and sign him. I don't know. Maybe it's worth it. I don't really care for Jordan Hall's play right now. I don't really like that ugly face he makes. I wish he was better. Let's see. Yeah, I think that the Spurs. I think that what Jeremy Sohan was quoted as saying that they were soft is true. Like they were just playing really soft these last few games, especially like the last two games. I was just like, who are these guys? They're not playing hard. They're not contesting. They're not going for blocks. They're not going for rebounds. I want to see the Spurs get back to competing for every ball, and hopefully at home we can do better.
Yeah, hopefully, for a relatively young team like this, playing at home can give them a bit of a boost, make them feel better. Play it
Uh-oh.
the way
Hold
they
up,
can.
Ben. Hold up, Ben. Ben, hold up. Wait, pause, Ben. Hold up 1 second. You got your Microsoft going. You're in the Matrix. Hold up 1 second.
I think I got it. It just connected me to the car. I have to tell it to turn off.
You sounded like me out there. I'm always in the car trying to make these spaces happen. We got Austin. Austin, I appreciate your patience. You got some Wi-Fi,
Yep.
right? You good? All right, perfect. Awesome, perfect. What's going on?
Yeah, not much, man. Just to listen to y'all talk about Jakob, and it's kind of what I've been saying for a while. You could get a second grade pick with them, or get a top 5 without him. And even if you want to bring him back, and your intention is to bring him back, you cannot control free agency. Even if Jakob wants to resign with you in free agency, this takes one team, one singular team, to change his mind, then he's gone forever. You can't control unrestricted free agency. So everyone can have the best intentions. Free agency comes along and someone makes a contender, a team that makes a good offer. I said, hey, you want to start winning 50 games again and compete for a title and not fight for 25 wins? Get over here. And then he's gone. Obviously, it's not a full thing, but that could very well happen. Or injuries happen. We've seen injury almost every month now where someone just lands funny and they're out for a month. That would affect trade value. So all this is to say, if you really want to lock this top 5 pick in definitively and probably even higher, Jakob would be the guy to go. It's not going to be Jay Rich. It's not going to be Doug. It's Jakob, because you see how we are without him. He's not the best player on this team, but in terms of where he is positionally, he's the most valuable. I truly believe that. Because we got guys that can score. We don't have guys that have the whole all-around game like we do with Jakob Poeltl. So the thing is, though, you might not get as much value as you think. It's an expiring contract. The thing I said about free agency applies to other teams that trade for him as well. So I think Spurs fans need to kind of look within themselves and realize, hey, you're not going to get 2 picks for this guy and a pick for this guy and a pick for this guy, because that's just not how it always pans out. So it's time to kind of manage those expectations. I would reach out to Golden State December 15th or January 15th, like, hey, Jakob would be perfect there. We'll take the long-term contract of Looney, and maybe we can work out something with Kuminga instead of Wiseman if y'all still have faith in Wiseman. We'll take Kuminga or whatever. Maybe they can throw in Patrick Baldwin as a sweetener. There's something to work around there. There is a goal out there, but we may need to temper expectations on who exactly we get picks for.
And not only is that a great point, but if you, like we were talking about earlier, if you're too late, if you're 2 or 3 weeks late to this party, this trade party, and this call is not exactly how you want it to be, and we're settling for the Malachi Flynn's of the world, the not the better Jalen Williams. I saw that rumor come to my timeline, which makes sense. There's a lot of other forwards in OKC that we already saw. Isaiah Roby get pushed out, and they need to start tanking. In terms of somebody that can be a starting center for them, Jakob Poeltl, an OKC first round pick. There's a lot of just discourse with that, but we will start to wrap things up here. If anybody had one, actually, this is you and Austin. That's, I looked on stage and everyone else is gone. Ben is having some technical issues, so Austin, if you had one more point you had to make. Oh, Ben, you're back. Hey.
Yes, I think I survived the Matrix. Amazing how that works. The agents tried to get me, but I Morpheused my way out of there.
That's funny. The Elon bots, man, they're active.
Way too active.
Austin, you had any more closing points you wanted to make?
Yeah, I kind of referenced this last time I talked to you guys. For those that are disappointed the Spurs are falling back down to earth, we really shouldn't have had that good of a start to begin with. The reason we did is we shot 15% higher than the rest of the league on contested threes. That's it. Which is it's an ungodly amount to hit from contested threes. We shot like 47% on contested threes. The average is like 32. That was why we had a hot start. Well, now that we're coming back to earth, we're like 1 for 11 in the last 10, 12 games or whatever. That's the reality. We're going actually, because it's coming back down to reality, we're actually going to go back in line with what Vegas was predicting. So that's not the personnel. It's not, this kid's doing wrong or this kid's bad or Sohan's not putting up 20 points a game. It's because we started off with an inhuman amount of shooting.
And what does that sound like? An adjustment that teams are making. Josh Richardson's not having 6 threes a game anymore. McDermott gets hot every other home game, right? On the road, he's kind of terrible. We all know that.
And he used to start 40-some%. He's down to 36. So everyone thinks that he's a lock-in top 15 first-round pick. You might want to think again. Like he's but he's a very inconsistent player. He's good, but like I said, he's down to 36% as opposed to 40 to start the season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Damn. Jesus Christ. And Keldon has been the only he only had a couple bad games. In terms of being consistent and being the 25-point per game threat that this team desperately needs, it's him or it's really nobody else on a day-to-day, night-to-night basis. You can say Devin Vassell, but when you look at a lot of Devin Vassell's like 20 point per game, 30 point per game outbursts, 29, sorry, a lot of those were in the first half. In the second half, he got kind of shut down. Philly, and I think, what was the second team? Forgot top of my head. But yeah, that's evidence. So teams are making adjustments. Spurs need I don't know if they want to make adjustments in the second half. I think they just want to get their first half race to solidify who's going to be in what position, long-term, short-term, who's going to be traded and not. But that is where we'll wrap up things. Austin, I appreciate you. Ben has to go at a hard 4:45. So we will.
Nice.
Hey, what? No, what? It's the truth. It's the truth. So we gotta bounce. We gotta go. And so, all right. But we will obviously been Project Spurs, Jazz, Matt, everyone for stopping by, to various Austin. Not only do we appreciate you, but if you guys have any questions, anyone that was DMing me beforehand, sorry I just couldn't get back to you. I was focused on the space, but we'll be back next week. If you have any questions, feel free to DM us, and we'll go from there.
And this space was recorded, so if you guys want to come back and refer to it, you're welcome to. We'll get that up, and I think it'll end up on YouTube as well. Thanks to Joe Garcia for that. In the meantime, appreciate you all, and like Evan said, we'll see you guys next week.
Sayonara. Peace.